Now started, and today, as I told you last time, we'll be talking about some questions from the reading section, especially read or paragraphs questions, because many of you told me last time that you have problem with this question type and you want more help in this question type. So I'll be showing you how to answer these kind of questions, and we'll be discussing your problems in the meantime. We'll be practicing these questions together. So for every question, I will give you 2 minutes time, and you have to solve those questions in those 2 minutes time. After that, we'll look at your answers, or I will show you the correct answer and I'll explain to you why the answer should be in that sequence. I hope this will help you in becoming more confident about reader paragraphs questions. Now, talking about the importance of reader paragraph questions in the exam, this question carries around 10 points. And what that means is this question is important, but not as important as other questions like fill in the blanks or fill in the blanks reading and writing or read aloud questions. So if you have any issues with your reading score, it's better to spend more time on fill in the blanks reading and writing, and after that, read aloud question as well. I said read aloud at the end because compared to fill in the blanks and fill in the blanks reading and writing, you need less expertise or you need less skill in read aloud. Fill in the blanks and fill in the blanks reading and writing, on the other hand, require you to have grammatical proficiency in English as well as good understanding of English vocabulary as well. So start with fill in the blanks questions, and then when you feel like you have done almost all of them or you feel more confident in answering those questions, you can move to the next stage, and that is the less important questions, and one of them is reader paragraphs. So let's start reader paragraphs, and in the meantime, if you have any questions, any confusion, any doubts, you can write in the comments. I'm reading your comments as I am doing these sessions. Okay, so we are going to practice some questions from our website. First, as I told you earlier, we'll start with some practice questions. So let me go to reader paragraph section in the reading part. So these are the past exam questions. We are going to do set 12 today. And in the set 12, this is our first question. You have 2 minutes to answer these questions. So take your time, try to answer the question first. Try to answer the question first, and then later on, I will discuss the answers of these questions with you. Let me start the timer. So your time starts now. Okay, your time is over now, and we are going to answer this question. In order to answer year or paragraph questions, it's always a good idea that you start with the first sentence, but how do you know which is the first sentence? So the first sentence has two basic properties, and they are: this is an independent sentence, and secondly, it has the topic of discussion. You have to make sure that the sentence that you are picking as the first sentence has both of these characteristics. But how do you do that? And what does it mean to say independent? So when we talk about sentences in English, we have dependent sentences and independent sentences. Dependent sentences are dependent on something mentioned before. They are connected to ideas mentioned before. And in order to maintain that connection, in order to have that connection, they use either logical organization or they use some grammatical devices, grammatical structures to connect the ideas together. And these are called dependent sentences. Independent sentences, on the other hand, are not dependent on any other sentences to clarify or present the ideas contained in them. So what does that mean in the practical sense? Let's have a look here. We have 4 sentences here, and if you look at these sentences, you can perhaps clearly and easily say that sentence number 2 cannot be the first sentence because it starts with therefore. Therefore is a linking word. Linking words are used to link ideas together, and therefore is used to present the result of something that happened before, which means something happened before this. It cannot be the first sentence. Spatially is used to emphasize a point. When you have already said a general thing and you want to be more specific about something, then you say spatially, because that way you are concentrating on just one part of whatever idea you are talking about, and that's why you use spatially there. So this cannot be the first sentence. Then we have 2 more sentences here. With the climate change, the money distributed in energy research will double. Many countries are suffering a shortage of scholars of new energy. Now, if you look carefully, both of these sentences look like independent sentences, but only one of them is introducing the topic or has the topic, and therefore is the topic sentence. And that sentence is this one. Many countries are suffering a shortage of scholars of new energy. The question is, how do I know this? How do I know this is not the first sentence and this one is actually the first sentence? The reason for that is, if you look at this sentence here, it says, with the climate change, the money distributed in energy research will double. So it's talking about something mentioned before, and that thing is the investment in energy research sector. And if you look at other sentences, they are also telling you the same thing. And that's how we know this is the first sentence. Now, after this, what we try to do is we try to pair the sentences as much as possible. Here in this sentence, you can see a word, a shortage of scholars. And here also you can see a shortage. So what that means is sentences containing similar words are more likely to go together because they are in the continuation of one idea. So I'm talking about shortage in the first sentence. Most likely I'm going to explain about that shortage in the next sentence. That's why in the next sentence you can see there is a sentence about shortage of engineers, and it's a more specific sentence than the previous one. So these 2 sentences are connected with each other. First, many countries are suffering a shortage of scholars of new energy, and then after that, especially, there is shortage of engineers with expertise in new energy. Now you have 2 more sentences left. If you put one of them in the right place, the other one will be automatically in the right place. What that means is you can now find out which is the last sentence, and that way you will automatically find the third sentence, or you can find out which is the third sentence and you will know which is the last sentence automatically. Whichever is easy for you, you can do that. So look at these 2 sentences and try to decide which could be the third sentence and which could be the last sentence. There, the sentence which starts with therefore is telling us, therefore, becoming an engineer not only means more opportunities in their career, but the field itself is likely to gain more investment for research. With the climate change, the money distributed in research will double. This is one possibility. Another possibility is we start with the climate change, the money distributed in energy research will double. Therefore, becoming an engineer not only means more opportunities in their career, but the field itself is likely to gain more investment for research. Which means One of them is the last sentence. Now you have to decide which could be the conclusion here. What do you think is the conclusion? Do you have a general idea of what conclusions usually look like? Think about that. What conclusions usually look like? If you want to give conclusion about anything, what do you write? Therefore, as a result, consequently, ultimately, these are the kind of words that we often use when we are talking about the last step of something. So if we see these kind of words, it gives us a general sense that perhaps this is the last sentence. Now, what you need to know is, what you have to do in the exam is, what works in most of the situation will work in the exam as well. If the last sentence starts with therefore in most of the sentences, hopefully in our exam also, it will start with therefore, or the conclusion will start with therefore. The only thing we have to do is if it is different in the current exam or not. What I mean to say is, first try to do things as you generally do, but make sure that in your exam they have not changed anything to make it more difficult. In most of the situation, the sentence will start with therefore at the end. Now you have to think, could this sentence starting with therefore be the last sentence or not? Could this be the conclusion or not? And in order to do that, what you simply do is you just read and try to find out. Okay. One thing you have to do is, one thing that you need to do is you have to make sure that you are not spending too much time on reader paragraphs question. Time management is very important in reader paragraphs. And the reason for that is reader paragraph almost comes in the middle of your test. If you are not careful with reader paragraph questions and how much time you are spending on reader paragraphs, you'll have problem with fill in the blanks questions which come after them. And if you compare the importance of these two questions, fill in the blanks questions are more important than reader paragraph questions because they carry more points. And of course, the only reason we are doing this test is we want to get the points and not for any other reasons. So we have to make sure that we are spending more time on those questions where we are getting more points. Anyway, going back to our question, I hope you have had enough time to think about which one is the last sentence now. The last sentence here is, therefore, becoming an engineer not only means more opportunities in their career, which is because there is shortage of scholars of new energy, but the field itself is likely to gain more investment for research, which is because the money spent on this sector will double. So you can see that the last sentence, which is the conclusion, is the result of whatever was mentioned before. So there were a few clues to find out which was the last sentence. The first clue was, which is easier than other clues, the sentence is started with therefore. Therefore is a linking expression used to introduce conclusion. That's why it is more likely to be the last sentence. Not just that, for those of you who can read and understand in the given span of time, you can see that they are saying engineers have more opportunities, engineers will earn more money. Why is it so? Because there is shortage of engineers, means you are more likely to get the job, and they are going to invest more money in the research of engineering field or energy sector, and that's why you are more likely to gain more investment as well. So that is the last sentence. So this is how you do reader paragraph questions. You start with the first sentence, which has to be independent sentence with the topic, and then you start pairing the sentences. While doing this, some clues may make your process easier and faster. And one of those clues is, if you can pair up sentences containing similar words together, then most likely you'll be able to put all the sentences in the right order. However, you have to be careful because sometimes this strategy may not work. Let's go to the next question here and practice the next question now. By the way, this is the correct answer. And I've already showed you the correct answer. So I'm going to restart this set now. Okay, so this is your second practice question. And some of you are asking me a question. It's fine. You can keep asking me a question. I'll answer all your questions at the end of the practice session. So first half is practice session, and then in the second half, I'll answer your questions. And I can see your question. Hussaini has a question. A Khan has a question. Deep Fuller has a question. And Aman has a question. Sandeep has a question. So many of you have questions here. Don't worry. I'll answer all your questions after we finish our discussion. So you'll have to wait a little bit. And in the meantime, you can learn something as well. Okay. By the way, you can share your answers. I can see your comments in the real time, and I can also see if you are answering the questions correctly or not. And that's a good way for me to understand your level in the exam, or how much you know about this test and this particular question. So if you want to share your answers, feel free to do so. It will give me an idea of where you stand and what I may need to explain to you. And in the meantime, if you are not happy with any of the explanations, please write in the comments, because then I can see where you are feeling confused and I can explain the answers to you. So don't worry if you have answered the question incorrectly and you're also not happy with the way I have explained. You do not agree with my explanation. You can simply ask me, why is it not like that? That's a very good way to develop your skills by questioning the rationale behind the correct answers. Anyway, let's go to the explanation of this particular question. Here, again, you can see there are 5 sentences. In the exam, you have to be really quick to skim through these sentences. If you start reading each sentence word by word, you'll not be able to finish this question type in the given time. So quickly skim through everything so that you can find the sentence which is your first sentence. And if you do that, perhaps you can see that most of the sentences are talking about a man, a man, a man, the man, and so on. And based on that, you can say that the topic is man. The most repeated word usually will be the topic. Now what you need to find out is which is the sentence which contains this word, the most repeated word, as well as it is independent as well. So that sentence is this, because this one says such a man, which connects it to something mentioned before. Such a man means I talked about a man before this sentence. It cannot be the first sentence. It is therefore. We already discussed about therefore. These kind of words usually come to talk about the conclusion, to talk about the result of something. Cannot be the first sentence. In turn means as a result, after that, consequently, followed by that, which means something happened before it. It cannot be the first sentence. And to him is a pronoun. Pronouns are used to avoid the repetition of noun. That means you must have used a noun before you use a pronoun. So now let's put all of these things together. Let's summarize all of these points and create some tips here, some tricks here. What it means is most of the first sentences do not start with pronouns or linking expressions or demonstrative adjectives. I'll tell you about demonstrative adjectives later on. For now, just remember that first sentence is an independent sentence containing the topic, means it usually does not start with a linking expression or does not start with a pronoun or does not start with the specific article or definite article like the. You never start by saying the man before you have mentioned a man. And that's why here, for example, this sentence, it is therefore the man. In this sentence, therefore and the man, both of these things tell me that this cannot be the first sentence. So this is the first sentence. Now comes the question, what is the second sentence? And this is the place where you have to think about the trick I gave you in the previous question. Sentences containing similar words usually go together. A man who possesses a strong will and firm determination finds all difficulties solved. Then you have to find out another sentence. And that sentence here is this. Now, if you are wondering how did I do that quickly, then look at this. Clear of all dangers and difficulties. To him, there are 1,000 ways open to steer clear of all dangers and difficulties. To him means man, difficulties as mentioned before. And when I quickly looked at these sentences, I felt that these two sentences perhaps are talking about difficulties. Then I read and made sure that they actually are connected to each other and could be in that order. So this is a quick way to find your pairs. And this ability, this skill gets faster and faster with practice. So basically what you do is you find the first sentence and then you quickly skim through the remaining sentences to find which sentence contains most of the words you saw in the first sentence or similar words to the ideas you saw in the first sentence. And then that helps you to pick the next sentence. To him, there are 1,000 ways open to steer clear of all dangers and difficulties. After that, you have to find out the next one. And that one is this: such a man goes on working hard, and even if he fails, he is never downcast. So in this one, the connection is for such a man. Which man? The man who knows how to clear ways out of the difficulties and dangers. And then you can also say such a man goes in working hard, and even if he fails, he's never downcast. That means even if the difficulties make it difficult for him to do things, he is not downcast, means he's not disappointed. Now, based on our previous theory, based on our previous discussion, we know that sentences containing therefore usually come at the end as the conclusion, although that's not a rule, but most of the times that's how we organize the information. Another thing that actually tells me the sentence containing it is therefore is the last sentence, is because here I can see that he fails, in turn failures, fails, failures. So I can see they are related to each other. They are talking about the same idea. And that's why sentences talking about similar ideas, usually with similar words, go together. And that quickly tells me that this must be the last sentence. Now, if you read through everything, you'll find that they are making perfect sense and they are in the right order. I hope this helped you in understanding how similar words can help us in picking up the pairs. So, what is the important idea here? What is the main concept here? The main concept here is you start your pairing, or you start reading the paragraph by finding the first sentence. In order to find the first sentence, you look for a sentence which is independent. That means without any pronouns, without any linking expressions connecting them to the previous sentence, without any unclear idea. And you make sure that the sentence also contains the topic. How do you identify the topic? You look for a word which is repeating in most of the sentences. So whichever sentence you pick as the first sentence must also contain that word, that topic. After that, how do you find the pairs quickly? You have to scheme. While scheming, what are you looking for? You are looking for words which are similar to the sentence you have just found and dragged to the right hand side. So if you have dragged to the right hand side a sentence containing man, then you are looking for other sentences which are talking about man. If you have dragged a sentence containing fail or failures to the right hand side, then after that you are looking for other sentences talking about failures. And this way you can create a continuation of your idea. And that's how you should be answering these kind of questions. I hope this is making it easier for you to understand. If anything is not clear, please write in the comments. I'm looking at all your comments right now. And if I see anything related to our discussion right now, I'll answer your questions as well. And any other question which is not related to reader paragraph, I will answer them at the end. So you can write your comments. You can keep commenting on Facebook or YouTube, wherever you are watching this live class. You can write in the comments whatever your problems are. Once our first session is over, that means our tutorial part is over, I'll look at all of your questions one by one and I'll answer all of those questions, or as many of the questions as possible in today's session. So don't hesitate, just write in the comments and let me help you. For now, let's go to a slightly more difficult question now to help you understand the concept of reader paragraph. Okay, this question is very important to understand the concept of pronouns and how they organize the information. So if you are careful about different pronouns used in the question, you'll be able to answer it without any problem. So let's start. Let me reset the timer now. And a quick request: if you like the video you are watching right now, if you like this class, don't forget to hit on that thumbs up button, or if you're watching this on YouTube and if you have not subscribed to our channel, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you don't miss any future videos. And spread the news, let your friends know that we are running one free live class every Sunday from 7 p.m. All right, your time is over now. So let's look at the answer. Don't forget to share your answers as well. Let's see how many of you got it right. Prem has just shared his answer, and we'll see whether that answer is correct or not. Don't hesitate. Don't be shy. Just share your answer. It will help me understand your problems. Amar had just shared his answer as well. Asais has shared answer. Sudeep has shared answer. Good job, guys. Keep sharing your answers. Let me know where you stand. Let me know if you have any issues with these questions. Babu has shared answer. Rachana has just shared her answer. Good job. Good job. Keep sharing your answer. Okay, most of you, I think, have answered it correctly. And most of you have almost the same answer, which is good. And hopefully your answers are correct. Let's find out whether those answers are correct answer or not. Now, if we think about the previous idea I shared with you, the independent sentence must contain the topic, but should not contain any dependent ideas, which means linking expressions or any kind of grammatical or logical construct which connects it to the previous sentence. As an example, this sentence says, he convinced, means someone, a male, convinced Professor Fitzgerald. That means this cannot be the first sentence because he is a pronoun. Pronouns connect to the nouns used before them. They are used to avoid the repetition of nouns. Dr. Byron has long held that there is a link between diet and acne. Maybe this is the first sentence. Professor Fitzgerald and his team studied more than 47,000 women. Maybe this is the first sentence. No link was found between acne. No link was found means you can find something only after you start looking for it. That means this idea is dependent on an action that happened before it. So when you are looking for, or when you're trying to figure out which sentence is independent, which sentence is not, don't just rely on grammatical clues. Look at the logical construct of the sentence as well. If you feel like logically it's not possible to say this sentence before saying something else, that is also a clue that that's not the first sentence. And the last one says the woman. If you remember, I told you that the is a definite article. A definite article means the article which specifies things. Now, if you're wondering what are articles, a, an, the, these words are called articles. And out of them, a and an are called non-definite articles, which means they don't specify anyone or anything. When I say a man, it can be any man. So saying a man is same as saying any man. Whereas when I say the man, I'm talking about one specific man. It's like saying this man or that man. So that is the difference between saying a, an, or the. That's why the woman means they must be talking about some woman they mentioned previously, which means this is not the first sentence. So we are now left with either B or C, which could be our first sentence. And B is the first sentence. Why? Because this is the assumption which they are testing. In research, we always start with an assumption. We always start with a hypothesis. So this is the hypothesis. This is the assumption that there is a link between diet and acne. So Dr. Byron always thought about that. And what he did, he convinced Professor Fitzgerald. So here he means Dr. Byron, right? Because Professor Fitzgerald is another person in this whole discussion. And that's why he went to Professor Fitzgerald of the University of Hill to set up a study into this matter. And Professor Fitzgerald and his team studied more than 47,000 women. Now, if you remember what I told you earlier, sentences containing similar words go together. Dr. Byron has long held that there is a link between diet and acne. He convinced Dr. Byron and he, these are the same person. This is the same person convinced Professor Fitzgerald of the University of Hill to set up a study. And then what happened? Professor Fitzgerald and his team set up a study and studied. So before you study, you have to set up the study. That's why you studied. Makes sense. And what did they do? More than 47,000 women. Which sentence is talking about women? This one. 47,000 women. The woman means the group of 47,000 women. That's what they're talking about. And this, of course, will be the last sentence because this is the only one left. Not just that, it is the result of the study. Now, let me quickly summarize what we learned here. And this is really important for you to learn for your exam because there is a very important underlying concept in this question. What is that underlying concept? Let's find out. The underlying concept here is whenever you are talking about any research, the organization always is in this order. You start with the assumption or hypothesis, then you do the study, and then you have the finding. And after that, sometimes you'll publish the finding, and sometimes you will redo the study, or sometimes you'll have recommendation. That means something will happen after that. So assumption, study, result. This is the usual logical organization of different research that people do for different purposes. And research-based questions are very common in your exam for a simple reason. This is a PT academic test. And in academics, research is very common. Studies are done and you have to understand the sequence of studies and how every information is organized when writing about studies. Those of you who are from the research field perhaps can appreciate this even more. I hope that was useful for you. So this was the third kind of question where research is being discussed. Now, let's see how much time we have spent on all these activities. We have spent half an hour. Now is the second half of today's discussion, which means now I'm going to answer your questions. So whoever asks me questions, please be ready to find the answers to your questions. Let's find out the questions. Let's answer the questions. So the first question we have here is from Sandeep. And what Sandeep is asking us here is he is having some kind of issues with his preparation. And he's asking me if I can help him in finding out what could be the problem. So let's see what could be his problem. The question here is, I'm not sure why I'm not getting past 73 in listening, even though I have 84 plus in speaking and 80 plus in reading and writing most of the time. Any wild guess? First, I think I don't need to guess wildly here, but let me tell you some of the possible reasons why you may have been getting lesser score in listening. In order to understand why someone loses a score in listening, we first have to think about the questions which carry more points in listening. And which are these questions? These questions are, first, the most important question is write from dictation. Second is repeat sentence. Now in repeat sentence, if you have problem with the content all the time, if you have problem in just one or two sentences, then it's okay. You don't have to worry if you can't remember one or two sentences. It doesn't matter much. But if you have problem with almost every sentence, then your score in listening can go down. So you have to think about that if you have any issues like that. Secondly, if you are doing retail lecture and if your content is not adequate, that means, yes, you have summarized some of the ideas, but not all the ideas. For your exam purpose, what you should do is try to get at least 10 to 15 keywords from the recording. And while taking those key words from the recording, try to get at least around 5 from the first 1/3, 5 from the middle 1/3, and 5 from the last 1/3, so that you have keywords from every section of the recording. then you'll not have problem for listening score that you get from retail lecture. After that, the next question that you should pay attention to is fill in the blanks question of listening. Now, in this question, what I have personally found is almost all students correctly answer the question, but what they do wrong is usually the spelling or the grammatical form of the words. And in order to answer the question correctly, don't just rely on what you hear, but rather make a habit of reading the sentence where you are feeling those words, where you are using those words. Try to get an idea of the grammatical structure of the sentence and think logically, whatever word I have selected, does that word make any sense or not? Because the words that you use in fill in the blanks are the words which are either difficult to spell, are most commonly misspelled, are most commonly mistaken for other words. So yes, they use simple and general words as well, but in order to evaluate advanced skills, they use these three kinds of words. Words which are hard to spell, words which are commonly mistaken for other words, which we call homophones. And the third category of words are, these are the words which people often write in the wrong form and so on. Okay, so you have to be careful about this kind of words. So look at the structure of the sentence to make sure that you have not made any such mistakes. For your reference, in the last exam, one of the words that I got in the test was diffident. Now, how many of you can spell this word, diffident? And do you know the meaning of this word? If yes, please write in the comment. I would love to know that. Otherwise, you can imagine yourself, if you don't know the word diffident and if you hear it in the exam, what are the chances that you will correctly identify the word and you will correctly spell the word as well? Most likely you'll write something else that you think you heard. And that can be a problem. So the next thing you have to do is you have to make yourself familiar with the words in the academic word list, which will help you in fill in the blanks question, but will also help you in the other important question in your test in listening, that is write from dictation. In write from dictation as well, most often the problem is not that students can't remember the sentence. The problem is students remember the sentence but write the wrong words. And that's something you need to think about. So these are some possibilities, but if you want to get more specific answer to your situation, we'll have to look into your performance, your mock test data or your performance data. I hope that was helpful. Let me know if you still are not happy with the answer you got here. Let me check the answer of, let me answer other questions now. All right, after Sandeep, the next question I'm going to answer is from Aman. And Aman is asking me, sir, I'm new here. What is the minimum days taken for practice of PT exam? Okay, Aman, that depends on how much score you are looking for because different people have different score targets. That also depends on how much you already know about English. How much skill do you have in English? That is also important. And the third is, what is your speed of learning? So basically it's similar to, going to a place, going to your destination. Let's say I want to go to Sydney from Melbourne. Then if someone asks me how many hours will it take to reach Sydney, then it will depend on first, how fast can I drive? How confident am I in my driving? And how many times I will take break? These things will determine when I'll reach my destination. And the same applies to your preparation as well. So if you really want to get a more specific answer, then I suggest that if you're just getting started, I suggest that you do a mock test. Find out what your score is. Compare that with your score target. That way you'll see the gap in your score. And then after that, go to a tutor, go to an expert and ask them, like, I want this score. This is my score in mock test. So what do you think? What should I do? And how much time will that take? They will also be able to tell you how much time it will take for you in your specific case by looking at your speed of learning as well. So that's how you can start your preparation and find out. Then we have another question from Hussaini, who is asking us from where we can practice reading and writing fill in the blanks. There are multiple sources on the internet these days. Just be careful about the answer. Otherwise, you can practice it from any source that is convenient for you. And another important thing is when you practice, make sure that you can get feedback or evaluation. There is no point just practicing, because if you're practicing the wrong ideas, then you might develop a habit of doing wrong things. If you don't want to develop a habit of doing wrong things, then you have to get feedback every time after you practice, so that your tutors, your teachers can tell you where you are going wrong and how you can avoid it in the next attempt. And then I have another question here from Shagandeep Vuller. Why I'm not getting up to 60 score? Now that's a very difficult question to answer, because I don't even know what is the context here. I don't know how much score you are getting right now. So I think it would be a little difficult for me to answer this question. You have to give me more context, what you have done, how much score you have got, and what score you are targeting. So if are you targeting 60 overall, 60 in all the sections, and how much you have scored until now, and so on, then only I'll be able to answer this question. Then A Khan has a question here. Kindly give me some tips and tricks, because I have been attempting PT test on 27 Feb and I want to get a 62 overall in my real exam. Moreover, now I'm getting 58 overall. Please tell me about it. Okay, I have made several videos about the score distribution in PT. The most important thing before you start your PT practice is to be familiar with the scoring criteria, so that you know which questions are more important, which questions are difficult, which questions are easy, and which questions are not important. What I generally do is I divide the questions into two groups: easy questions, difficult questions. Then I further divide them into important questions, not important questions. And I start with easy and important questions because they help me in getting my base clear. I will at least be able to get score above certain level. And then after that, I go for the next group of questions, which are important questions, easy questions, but not so important question, because I don't have to spend much time on those questions. They are easy and they are not so important. So maybe after 1 or 2 days, I'll learn how to answer those questions. After that, I spend most of my time practicing questions which are important questions but difficult questions. So bulk of my preparation time will be spent on those questions, because I can't ignore these questions because they are important, but they are difficult as well, which means I need to spend more time on them. And at the end, maybe 2 or 3 days I'll spend on questions which are difficult and not so important. One example of that kind of question is highlight, correct, summary. This is a difficult question, but not so important question. What should I do? Maybe in the last few days, I can practice a few questions, get familiar with the question, but I don't really need to worry about this question much. What is an example of easy and important question? Read aloud. This question is easy because you just have to read what is in front of you. But it is an important question as well. It carries so many points. So I can start with read aloud, be more confident about my reading and speaking score by doing better in read aloud. And what is an example of important but difficult question? Fill in the blanks reading and writing. It's an important question, but it's a difficult question. I should be spending a bulk of my preparation time on this question. So this is how you can make your strategy. Make a 2x2 box and then write easy, difficult, important, not important. In order to find which questions are important, which are not important, you can watch my videos that I have posted on YouTube. In order to find out which questions are easy and which questions are difficult for you, you have to practice a few questions first and find out how you feel about those questions. Fill the box and start practicing accordingly. That will help you in getting your score in your next exam. Then after that, we have a question from Hina. And the question is, my exam is on February 18, Melbourne. Will it be on same day or postponed? Now, that's a question I cannot answer because that's something for Pearson to decide. Situation in Melbourne has changed dramatically and everybody is praying for the return of the normalcy, but whether things will restore to normal or will take more time, that's something we'll have to wait and find. So unfortunately, I can't say for sure what may happen. Then Amr has a question, how to prepare reading and writing by self-study. Now, if you are asking me reading and writing 2 sections by self-study, then the best way to do this is first, go to YouTube, watch a couple of videos, find out the tutor whose style you like. And then after that, just watch that person's videos so that you can get familiar with the exam and tips and tricks related to the exam. Don't watch too many videos for the same topic because first it will waste your time And second, it will distract you as well, and it will perhaps make you confused. It's never a good idea to watch different videos for the same topic, especially in exams like PT, because this is a language exam. The same question can be answered in hundreds of different ways. So there is no point learning hundreds of different ways to answer the same question. Rather, you should find someone you can trust, you like, and then follow that person. And just use that person's guidance. So that is the first step, finding what to know about the exam. What is important to know about the exam. So that you do by watching the tutorial videos. Once you have watched the tutorial videos, the second step is practice. Now, find practice questions. In case of PT, it's actually quite helpful that exam questions repeat. And even if exam questions do not repeat and you don't get the same question, at least they will give you some idea about the difficulty level of the exam questions and will help you to prepare yourself at the same level. So the second step is find the prediction files from previous few months and practice the questions given there. Our prediction file is slightly different than the prediction files you'll find elsewhere, because what we do is, rather than giving you all the thousands of questions which may have repeated in the test, what we do is we only collect the questions from the most important, most rewarding questions and ask you to practice that for the next test, so that your preparation, your focused preparation before the test becomes more concentrated, and you are more likely to get the score because of that. Once your practice stage is done, the third step is test yourself. Do a mock test. It can be Pearson's official mock test, or it can be mock test done on websites like ours. After the mock test, if possible, try to get feedback so that you can learn about your personal problems, your individual problems. In this regard, relying on artificial intelligence is not that helpful, because artificial intelligence will only tell you what is wrong with you, but will not give you a proper customized solution. In such situations, it's better to speak with a real teacher who can actually look at your performance and then tell you how you should go about it, what you should do about it. So these are the steps of preparation. First, get familiar with the exam pattern. Second, study the important skills required to answer the question. Third, practice repeated questions and past exam questions. Fourth, test yourself and get feedback. And the last step is do the last minute revision 1 or 2 days before the test. In our case, what we do is students would tell us about their exam dates. We send them some personalized emails that I have prepared based on my experience of the last few years of teaching PT. So if you are planning to appear in the test anytime soon, go to our website and then tell us about your exam date so that we can send you some relevant materials a few days before your test. Why we send you these materials only a few days before the test? Because these are like the last minute tricks. You should not start your preparation with just the tricks, but you should learn the tricks so that at the last moment, if nothing works, you can use those tricks and at least improve your chances of answering those questions correctly. So these are the things which will help you. I hope this was helpful, Amar. And let's go to the next question now. The next question we have here is from Rupal, and she's asking, hello, sir, how important reader paragraph is, or RO? Reader, I think that's what she's asking. How many we have to do this as a preparation to get 65 plus? Okay, a very simple answer. If you can get 50% of reader paragraph questions correct, you will easily get more than 65, provided you don't have problem with any other sections in reading or any other sections or question types that contribute to reading. So that was a very specific question, and I hope the answer was specific enough. Then Sadhana has a question. Can you please detail? I don't know what that means, detail of what. So if you can clarify that point for me, maybe I'll try to answer this question later. Harshid has a question. How to improve reading skills in Read Aloud? Of course, if you practice more, then your reading skill improves. But at least for initial few days, try to practice in front of a coach so that you learn where you tend to make mistakes and you start learning the skills to get over those mistakes. Read aloud is a test of your pronunciation skill, is a test of your fluency skill, and is a test of your ability to understand the content in front of you, theoretically. Practically, Read aloud is a question where the computer is trying to find out whether you can speak without any hesitation, without dropping your speed, and with the consistent pattern, with intonation in your voice, with rhythm in your voice, and by stressing on certain keywords. Which means the way it should be assessed and the way it is actually assessed, these two things are different. You have to first know how it is actually assessed in the test and make your strategies based on that understanding, which means there are certain things in read aloud that you should do to get higher score. For example, if you speak in a flat tone, you are likely to get lesser score. But if you speak by varying your tone, stressing on certain words that you consider are important, you are more likely to get a score. Let's say that you speak very fast, but you often hesitate. You will get low score in fluency. Let's say that you speak slowly, but you never hesitate. You will get higher score in fluency. What that means is it has nothing to do with your speed. It only means consistent presentation. So pace is not important. Pausing is important. If there are unnatural pauses, that will reduce your score in fluency, not your pace. That's another important thing to understand. Sometimes people may tell you that if you speak faster, you'll get more points. Yes, as long as you don't hesitate. So these are the things to keep in mind if you want to score higher in read aloud. The most important thing is get familiar with the difficult words they ask in your test. In read aloud, they often ask you about difficult words. They often ask you to pronounce difficult words. By the way, you can download this list for completely free. Let me show you where you can do that. And if you like, so far, if you are liking this video, please hit the thumbs up button and let me know that you like the content. And now let me show you where is that particular thing I'm talking about. So if you go to our website and if you go to free materials section here and go to free books, there is this thing, words you must learn to score 90 in pronunciation. Download this list. Practice all the words in this list. Make sure you don't have any issues pronouncing these words. That's one way to make sure that you don't face problems in the test and get the score you are looking for. I hope that was helpful. Now let's move on to the next question we have here. And the next question here is from, so who is asking me the next question? Then Deepika. I think Deepika is also enrolled in our course. So the advantage of being enrolled in our course is if you want to get specialized help and personalized suggestions, you can do mock mini test and ask for our feedback based on your performance there. Anyway, if I'm wrong about your enrollment, that's fine. Anyway, I'll answer this question. I'm having issue with read and write fill in the blanks. Most of the time I answer wrong. This is not just you. This is a problem for almost every student. And because the reason for this is read aloud is not just a test of how many English vocabularies you know. It's a test of your reasoning skills. It's a test of your time management skill. So if you want to get high score in reading and writing fill in the blanks, then you first definitely know about the words they are likely to use in the test. Again, you can download the list for free from the place I showed you earlier from our website. From there, you can download the list of words they often use in reading and writing fill in the blanks. After you are done with that, the second step is make sure that you are familiar with the 5 tips of reading and writing fill in the blanks, which means what to do if you are confused between 2 options. What are the 5 things to keep in mind? And there is a video on YouTube where I have discussed these 5 tips. You can watch that video. It will give you enough ideas to answer these questions in the exam. And then make sure that you have done all the practice questions in the prediction file. All the practice questions in the prediction file, because these questions repeat. And even if these questions don't repeat, the words used in these questions repeat. So it will help you in your actual exam. So these are the things to do to improve your score in reading and writing fill in the blanks. So I have a problem in read aloud. I'm getting 56 out of 90. How to improve? If you are scoring less in read aloud, you have to mostly focus on your fluency in pronunciation rather than on the content. And for the pronunciation part, as I said, they will use certain words which are difficult to pronounce for everyone. You should practice those words so that you don't lose your fluency when you reach those words. because the tendency for everyone is to skip those words or hesitate those words if they don't know how to pronounce. So if you make yourself familiar, definitely you'll feel more confident and you'll also see a change in your score. So download that word list I showed you earlier, the words which are important to score 90 in fluency. Download that word. That's very important for your pronunciation and fluency score. Remember this thing, when I say pronunciation and fluency are not things that we can separate from each other. Although computer evaluates them separately, but for us, for humans, we can't think about pronunciation separately and fluency separately. It just happens together. And in fact, if you try to focus more on pronunciation, you'll lose fluency. If you focus more on fluency, you'll compromise your pronunciation. So you have to do both of these things together. So you have to think about the things that may compromise your pronunciation or fluency. And one such example is unfamiliar words. Most often when we see difficult words, we either stammer, hesitate, or don't pronounce clearly, because of which will compromise our pronunciation score, will compromise our fluency score. So it's a good idea that you make yourself familiar with them. Another important thing in pronunciation is, which I often tell in sessions like this, is we all come from different non-native language backgrounds, and our languages have different kinds of sounds. Some of the languages we speak do not have the sounds they use in English, because of which it is difficult for us to make those kind of sounds. So you have to find that out. English has 44 different kinds of sounds, and you have to find out how many sounds your language has and whether you have all those, you can pronounce all those 44 sounds of English or not. If not, which are the sounds you cannot pronounce, so that you can first fix those basic problems and then move on to more difficult problems later. All right, let's go to next question. And the next question here is from reading section of ELAPS. It's the same question that one of your friends asked earlier. Start with the vocabularies, but that's not enough. You have to practice the questions, get feedback, especially in fill in the blanks of reading, not fill in the blanks reading and writing. You need to have some grammatical skills as well, which means you must be able to guess the missing word based on its position in the sentence. If it's in the beginning, what it could be. If it is in the middle, what it could be. Or if it is in the end of the sentence, at the end of the sentence, what it could be. That skill is very important. And for that, you will have to learn about parts of speech. So find some articles about parts of speech, practice parts of speech, then practice fill in the blanks. Sadhana has a question. What is the most important content of fluency and pronunciation? Can you please help? Thank you. It's always fluency in pronunciation. Content is less important in speaking as compared to fluency in pronunciation. Unlike other exams such as IELTS and TOEFL, in PT, as long as you can pronounce clearly and speak fluently, even if your content is not that good, you can still score 90 out of 90. So focus on your fluency in pronunciation and find customized solutions for your situation. Don't just follow general advice, because it may not work for everyone. If it would work for everyone, then everyone would have scored 90, because everything that people have to tell generally is already out there. Maybe on YouTube, maybe your friends have already told you something. Maybe you have been to a class where sitting with 50 other students, you were told the same thing, like do this and do that. But why some students get this score and the others do not? Because general solutions only apply to a handful of people, and others may need some special solution, special suggestions. So find specific suggestion for your specific problems rather than just following the general advice. Now, Sandeep Bansal has said no idea in the comments. I don't know what was the context there. How can solve easily writing fill in the blanks? Although it's not easy, but that whatever I told you just a while ago are the things you should start with. And Babu, I had asked this question earlier, and yes, this is the correct spelling. Do you know what is the meaning of this word? Oh, Sandeep has again said, thanks for the advice. Yeah, my pleasure. I could help. And there is another spelling of diffident here, single F. That's wrong spelling. Hopefully you will not make this mistake again if you get this word in the exam. And Prem has written, person who defend is defendant. That is defendant. The word I'm asking is diffident. Defendant. So see, this is an example of homophones. Homo means similar, phone means sounds. Words which have similar sound but different meanings are called homophones. And in your exam, you sometimes get this kind of words. And the only way you figure out which is the word you heard is by looking at the context, because the context in which defendant fits will not be suitable for diffident, because diffident means shy, someone who is reserved, someone who cannot speak with others easily. Defendant means, as you correctly mentioned there, a person who defends, or any entity that defends itself is defendant. Prem has another question. My target score is 79 plus. In different mock tests available in portal, I got from 52 to 72 so far. So how far is my target in terms of practice in time frame? If you are at 72 right now, I think in the next 4 or 5 weeks, you will be able to reach 79, provided you keep practicing and keep getting feedback. Remember, I've seen students stuck at 72 for more than 2 years when they were not getting the right kind of advice. And I've also seen people getting the score the very next week once they got the right kind of feedback, right kind of advice. So 72 to 79, the journey from 72 to 79 is not difficult, provided you get right kind of advice and you work on those advice and get over your problems by using those suggestions. Rupal has written, thank you very much, sir. Your all answers were very clear and you explained in details. Appreciated from all. Thank you so much. If you like the answer, of course, you know what to do. Hit that thumbs up button on Facebook or on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. Let your friends know about us. Let them know that we are providing this free service. We also run paid classes as well. In Melbourne, we run face-to-face class, and we have online classes for students from all other places. You can check out our classes at romanpt.com, and you can also enroll in our free course where you can explore a few videos, practice a few questions. And at any time you feel like I want to practice more, get more feedback, get more support, get more personalized help, you can upgrade your plan at any time. Sometimes we do run offers as well. So if you are not sure, please ask in the live chat about the offers. Lucy has a question here. If my fluency is high and my pronunciation is low, will I still get 65 plus in speaking? Very much possible, because I have seen this kind of score before. I've seen people with very high score in fluency and comparatively low score in pronunciation. That means below 50 and overall score of more than 65 plus in speaking. So it's quite possible. Although you have to be careful with this strategy, because if your pronunciation is too unclear, it may compromise your score in listening and reading severely. And of course, when you are talking about getting 65 plus, I think you are planning to get 65 plus in all the sections, not just in speaking. So yes, keep that in mind when you use this strategy. Otherwise, this strategy has been used by many people successfully in the past. Deepika said, yes, sir. I think that was in relation to she being enrolled in our course. And Manminder has another question here. In summarized spoken text, if we only add keywords from the lecture in any type of template, is it enough to get good score? Any type of template? I'm not sure about that, because the template should not have any kind of mistakes. Otherwise, if the template does not have any mistakes, takes care of all the 5 criteria of evaluation in summarized spoken text, and you also get the good number of keywords and write them without making any spelling error, you will definitely get the score, full score from summarized spoken text. In other words, summarize spoken text, find a good template. Second, learn how to fill the template. Third, get a good number of keywords from the recording. Fourth, make sure that all the words have been correctly spelled. Fifth, do the proofreading and submit. Take care of word limit as well, 50 to 70 words. That's the limit. Don't write below the limit. Don't exceed the limit in the exam. Hope that was helpful. There are some appreciations here. So thank you guys for all the appreciation. And I really feel motivated when I see those kind words. Roshan has a question here. Hi Roman, are we supposed to write British English or American English? Interesting question. You can actually use both types of English in the test. Both versions of standard English are acceptable. Don't mix them. You in one particular answer, stick to one particular English type, especially in summarized written text, summarized spoken text, and essay writing. Try to stick to one variety of English only. In other questions, it doesn't matter. In these three question types, just to stick to one type. And what that means is, let's say that you got two summarized spoken text. In one you followed British English, fine. In another you followed American English, fine. But in the same question, if you follow British and American, that can create a problem. So that's the only thing to keep in mind. And I think the next question Roshan has here is a follow-up to the first question. That is, I mean, if we have to write organized, which one is correct in terms of PT, organized or organized? Both are correct. The one with Z is American English. The one with S is British English. Easier way to remember that. British has S, so it is S in British English. American, Z. Our Americans call it G. I find it that a little difficult to pronounce. Z, or I mean that's they call that a fricative sound, where your tongue touches the base of the teeth and produces the sound with vibration. Harshid, if I'm skipping some words and read aloud, how many marks will be deducted in listening? Again, it depends on the length, because we get different number of questions in the test, and the length also varies from one test to another test, as well as from one question to another question. So depending on the total number of words you got in read aloud, and how many of the word and the number of words you skipped, you may lose fewer points or more points. So it depends on the length. But as a rough idea, if you skip one or two words per question, it will not be a problem. But if you skip more than that, then it can be a problem. So I hope that was helpful. And this is our last question for today. And the question is, sir, in March, is material repeated from previous material? I see your video of exam booking. So Pearson has a pattern of updating their questions, and they tend to do this every 3 months. And that's why I often tell my students that after every 3 months, if you're planning to appear in the test, wait and let us do the test first. By the way, for your information, in our case, we sit in the test ourselves to find out whether the questions are repeating or not, whether there has been any change in the scoring system or not. When I say scoring system, I'm not talking about how much score you get per question. I'm talking about some tricks and tips that we use. For example, can we still use keywords in retail lecture? Can we still use just the keywords in summarized spoken text? What happens if I write book and books both in right from dictation? How do we know? How can we know the answer to these questions? How can we be sure that we can still use them? Because if everyone uses them, don't you think Pearson will also know about those things and will fix them? That's quite possible. And definitely one day that will happen. But until that time, we have to keep checking. And that's what we do. We appear in the test ourselves as many times as possible. I myself have appeared in the test 8 times now. And my other tutors also appear in the test from time to time, and we share our experience with each other. We do experiments with the Pearson's official mock test to find out how they test your content, how they test your answer, and so on. So yeah, if you want to find out whether they are actually adding new question sets or not in March, you wait until the first week of March. Let us find out what they have done, and then we'll let you know. That's the reason why I release the prediction file only after the first week, because usually in the first week we collect information from students or the tutors who go to the test, and and based on that information we release the prediction file for that month. I thought that was the last question, but I have another question here from Anshu. And the question is, hello sir, how to improve bands in reading? It's too hard. And from where we can get list of collocation and words for reading? So of course you are on the right path if you are looking for the words, because that's the first thing to do. And you can find all these words from our website. If you go to romanptmelbourne.com.au, go to free materials and click on the ebooks or free books or something. I just forgot what was there. If you go there, you'll be able to find all the things you need to prepare for your test. If even after those materials or your self-study, you are not sure, you are not confident, then you can contact us for some of our paid classes where we can help you with your problems. So guys, we went through some reader paragraph questions today, and we also discussed some of your problems. What should I do in my next video? Write in the comments and let me know. You can also send me email and let me know about these things. You can chat with us live on our website and submit your feedback or your questions so that I can cover them in the next session. If you think this video or these sessions are helpful for you, then show your appreciation by hitting the thumbs up button, hitting the like button, and subscribing to our channel on YouTube or following us on Facebook. And I think in Melbourne, it has been a little difficult for all of us now because of the recent surge in COVID cases. So stay home, stay safe, and all the best for all of you who are appearing in the test anytime soon. Signing out now. Have a good night.